You are trapped in a room that's collapsing. The walls crack, the ceiling gives way, and everything around you turns to dust. You can stay there, hoping someone will rebuild the world for you, or you can decide who you are as everything falls apart. The world is collapsing, and you think you can find freedom only if everything improves. Sartre would tell you, chaos will never cease. But you can choose differently even within it. You woke up today expecting the world to make sense, that people would be just, that problems would resolve themselves, that your peace depended on everything being in its place. But look around, everything is out of place, and it will stay that way. Amid the chaos of the modern world, the only true form of freedom is to take full responsibility for your decisions moment by moment, not as reactions, but as conscious expressions of who you have chosen to be. To Sartre, freedom isn't the absence of chaos. It's your ability to remain authorial within it. Here, you'll understand why trying to control the world is a prison, and why being free means something entirely different from what you've been taught. This ends now. If this has already happened to you, comment below. If it hurt you too, leave your comment. That pain you feel when you realize the world won't stop being chaotic, it's the beginning of your freedom. You think you're truly living, but you're only reacting. With every news story, you get agitated. With every criticism, you defend yourself. With every provocation, you explode. With every comparison, you diminish yourself. You react to everything: news, opinions, criticisms, comparisons. It may seem like freedom, but it's emotional slavery. You've become a puppet controlled by invisible strings, and others pull those strings whenever they want. Sartre would say, those who react don't choose, they just obey impulse. You're not free. You're being controlled by external circumstances, your anger, your sadness, your euphoria. None of these stem from a decision of yours. They arise from what's happening around you. The true prison isn't the bars. It's living under the illusion that your freedom depends on others' behavior. It's waiting for traffic to flow, for your boss to be fair, for people to understand you, for the country to improve, for your family to support you. While you wait for that, you're not truly living. You're surviving. Do you want to know what the problem is? You've confused freedom with the absence of problems. You thought being free meant a life without obstacles, conflicts, or injustices. But that is the lie that keeps you trapped, because the world will never stop being problematic. And while you wait for it to improve, you surrender your life to chance. Reaction is the opposite of choice. When you react, you're saying, I am what they make of me. When you choose, you're saying, I am what I decide to be, regardless of what they do. The difference is profound, and Sartre knew this. Chaos is not your enemy. It is your training ground. Freedom arises when you are able to choose even under pressure. In traffic, in arguments, in cancellations, in indecision, who do you choose to be? Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. Two options. You can react with anger, honking, cursing, allowing that person to control your mood for the next 2 hours. Or you can choose who to be in that moment. Breathe. Decide that your peace does not depend on others' behavior. That is the difference between reaction and choice. Awareness in chaos is the first step toward existential freedom. Sartre called this situation, you are always in a situation. The situation is never perfect. But within any situation, you have the capacity to choose your response. The modern world bombards you with chaotic situations. Social media shows you perfect lives, while yours is a mess. News alerts you to crises you cannot resolve. People demand your stance on issues that change daily. And you stand there thinking you need to react to everything, have an opinion about everything, take a stance on everything. But Sartre would tell you, you don't have to react. You can choose where to put your energy, your attention, your indignation. You can choose what deserves your response and what deserves your silence. This is practical freedom. The free person is not someone who lives in a bubble protected from chaos. It is someone who navigates chaos while remaining faithful to what they have chosen to be. They do not run from difficult situations. They decide who to be within those situations. When you understand that chaos is unavoidable, You stop wasting energy trying to control it, and you begin to use that energy to control yourself, to get to know yourself, to decide, moment by moment, what kind of person you want to be. If any part of this video has made you reflect, mark this moment in the comments. That is where change begins. And if this resonated with you so far, leave a like. Not for me, but for yourself. Sartre. True freedom is being the author of oneself, not the character in others' stories, not the victim of circumstances, not the reflection of others' expectations. The author, the one who writes their own narrative, even when the stage is aflame. In a world full of ready-made scripts, choosing to continue is an act of courage. You were taught to follow formulas, how to be accepted, how to succeed, how to be loved, how to be respected. But all these formulas turn you into a copy, and a copy is never free. Being the author of oneself means accepting responsibility for what you do with your life, not for what happens to you, that is, beyond your control, but for how you respond to what happens, that is yours, completely yours. Example, I met a man who lost his job at 45, family to support, bills to pay, wounded ego. He had two choices, become a victim of circumstances or become the author of a new chapter. He chose the latter. He didn't deny the pain. He didn't pretend everything was fine. But he decided that the situation wouldn't define who he was. It would only redefine what he did. He didn't spend 6 months complaining about injustice. He spent 6 months building a new strategy. He didn't blame the economy, his boss, his age. He took responsibility for his next decision. And he made that decision consciously, deliberately, authorially. That is authority over oneself. It's not about denying that bad things happen. It's about deciding that, when they do, you will respond as the author of your life, not as a secondary character in others' lives. Authority over oneself is not arrogance. It is deep humility, because you stop demanding that the world be fair to you and take responsibility for being fair to yourself. You stop waiting for others to value you and start valuing yourself through your choices. When you become the author of yourself, you stop living by asking for permission. You stop looking around for approval before making a decision. You decide, act, and accept the consequences. That is practical freedom. That is real power. Those who choose for themselves pay the price. Misunderstanding, judgment, isolation. The people around you are used to versions of you that react, adapt, conform to expectations. When you stop doing that, they are surprised. Some distance themselves. But that is the only way to avoid living as a copy of someone else. Sartre knew freedom is not the end of suffering. It is the beginning of authenticity. And authenticity hurts, because it demands that you remain true to yourself even when that displeases others, even when it goes unrecognized, even when it leaves you isolated. The liberated individual faces the risk of solitude, because most people live reacting to one another, shaping themselves to fit others, seeking validation through others. When you cease participating in this game, you may find yourself alone for a time. And this is the test of your freedom. Are you able to be yourself even without an audience? Can you make the right decisions without applause? Can you uphold your values when no one is watching? If your answer is yes, then you understand what Sartre was conveying. The risk of being free is that you might discover many of your so-called friendships were merely exchanges of validation. That many of your relationships were built on you being who others wanted you to be. That many of your choices were made to please, not to authentically express your true self. When you become free, you may lose some people, but you gain yourself. And that exchange is always worth it, because you can live without others' approval. But you cannot live without your own integrity. Freedom requires courage to be misunderstood, to be judged, to be left aside by those who expect you to remain predictable. But it also offers something no external validation can provide: the certainty that you are living your life, not the life others have projected onto you. Freedom is invisible, but it manifests as presence. It's not about escaping chaos. It's about not dissolving into it. The free person does not shout amid confusion. They breathe. They do not defend themselves against every provocation. They choose what deserves a response. Inner silence is not passivity. It's strategy. It's the ability to maintain mental clarity even when everything around you is out of control. It's the space between stimulus and response where your freedom resides. Practical techniques, breathing, reflection, pausing before reacting, akin to existentialist tools. When someone provokes you, breathe before responding. When news unsettles you, stop and ask, does this information change something within my control? When criticism hits you, reflect, is this true? Is it useful? Or is it just noise? Inner silence grants you the power of choice. Because when you are not carried away by the emotions of the moment, you can see the options available. You can assess the consequences. You can decide based on what you want to build, not on what you want to destroy. An individual with internal silence does not allow themselves to be contaminated by collective anxiety. They do not panic because others are panicking. They are not outraged because outrage is fashionable. They maintain their center, their clarity, their capacity to discern. This does not mean being insensitive. It means being selective. You choose what affects you, what moves you, what deserves your emotional energy. You are not a sponge absorbing all the chaos around you. You are a filter that allows only what contributes to who you have chosen to be. The world will try to drag you into its level of hysteria. It will attempt to make you react, take a stand, pick a side in debates that lead nowhere. But you can choose not to participate. You can choose silence. You can choose observation. You can choose patience. This is a practical form of freedom. Amidst the noise, you maintain your internal silence. Amidst the rush, you keep your rhythm. Amidst the confusion, you preserve your clarity. This is real power. The world will continue demanding that you react. People will keep trying to control you through your emotions. Circumstances will remain imperfect. Chaos will continue to be chaotic, but you have a choice. You can breathe. You can stand your ground. Do you understand? Freedom is not fleeing the world. It's deciding who you are within it. It's not waiting for everything to get better to be happy. It's being the author of your happiness even when everything is collapsing. Sartre taught us that freedom is a choice you make moment by moment. When you wake up, you choose what kind of day you'll have. When someone attacks you, you choose how to respond. When something goes wrong, you decide what to do with it. That is your only true freedom. And it is enough. A free person does not control circumstances. They control their reactions to circumstances. They do not control others' behavior. They control their own behavior. They do not control what happens. They control what they do with what happens. Being free is not escaping chaos. It's deciding who you are, even when the entire world tries to push you away. It's maintaining your identity, even when everything conspires to make you lose it. It's continuing to choose, even when it seems like you have no choice. Now tell me, are you still going to try to be understood, or have you already grasped the game? Write this down. It's your rupture contract. And if you want to keep hearing truths that no one else dares to tell you, subscribe. Here, illusions do not survive.